All right, for grass in Blender, it's a fairly complicated thing, but I'm going to show you 4 or 5 settings that you need to know in order to get some decent grass, and then you can customize from there and learn new things, look at tutorials, and play around with the settings, whatever you want to do to make the grass look different. But let me just give you a few simple settings to get you going. So first of all, I'm going to make sure I'm in Cycles Render, and I'm going to delete this cube, and I'm going to add a new plane, ground plane. I'm going to scale it up, and I'm going to add some grass to that. So I'm going to come up to my options over here, this little sparkly tab here, sparkly lights. Second from the right, I will click on this is a particle system. I'm going to add a particle system, and this is how I make the hair. Well, it's called hair, but I'm going to make it grass, of course. So if I click on type and change it from emitter to hair, it gives me all that hair right away. And then it's kind of long, so I'm going to change the hair length right here, click and drag in the middle of it. I'm going to make it, you can make really short grass or tall grass. It's your preference, but this is going to be an outdoor scene, and so it's going to be kind of field grass. I'm going to make it about medium size, and you can always change it later. So after that, I'm going to go to the children's settings right here, and this is just a 3D relationship, parent-child relationship, where if you have parent objects and you add children objects to them, they will move with the parent. Wherever the parent goes, the children go also. And so it's just a common relationship. And with grass, I have all these parent particles of grass or hair, and I'm going to add a bunch of children to each of them, and they will follow where they go. So I will click interpolated right here, and it gives me a whole lot more. So it starts with 1,000 pieces of hair or grass, and now it's displaying 10 children per 1,000 parents, so 10,000 total. But when I render it, it's going to be 100,000. Okay, and so it'll be a lot thicker, and that's a pretty good number. If your plane's really big, it's going to be more spaced out or smaller. You might want to increase or decrease that number. I wouldn't go above 200 or 300 right here. I mean, it depends on your computer and how much processing it can handle, but let's keep it at that for now. The other settings I want to change are this uniformity right here, and I'm just going to change that a little bit. It kind of makes it really wavy, kind of interesting. So I'll change that a little bit. I'll also change this randomness, make each piece of grass a little more random instead of uniform. And then the clump I like to change and go left. If you go left, it clumps the bottom. If you go right, it clumps the top. And so just your preference, but I like to clump it a little bit on the bottom, as it typically does in nature. And just with those few settings, and there's so many more that you can play around with and learn different types of grass and shapes and things, but I'm going to go with those. The last thing that I will change is down at the very bottom, this thickness, because if I do a Shift Z right now, it's likely that it's going to be too thick on the bottom. I'm going to change the light real quick. I'll change it from a lamp to a sunlight, and I'm going to bump that up to like 10 maybe, change the angle of it by rotating. There we go. Well, that's pretty bright. Let's go 5 instead, not 55. Okay, so you can see, look how thick they are on the bottom, and then they go up to a point. So it's the thickness on the particle system. If I click back on the plane, the root is 1 and the tip is 0. So I'm going to change both of these. I'm going to go like 0.2 on the bottom and 0.1 on the top. And it depends again on the size of your grass and the size of your plane that the grass is on. But for me, that should look pretty good. Okay, so it looks pretty thin, you might be thinking. That's because it's only showing, even in this live render, it's only showing the 10,000 particles, when the render will be 10 times that, 100,000. So I will show you the render in just a minute. The last thing I would do is the color. So to get color on there, I want to go to my materials and add a material. And I could do green, which I'm not going to do. I'll just show you what that does. Then it renders everything perfectly green, which is not very realistic. but it's more so than white, I guess. Plus, a thing to note, see, now my sunlight is not quite strong enough. There we go. So whatever color the ground plane is, that's what color the grass is going to be. And it's whatever color it's finding at the base of the grass, it's going to extract that color. So it's all green right now, and that's not very realistic. So to make it more realistic, I'll go back to the materials. And instead of a color, I'm going to get an image texture. And I've already got mine loaded here. Just any picture, and I got a picture of a grassy field, which has lots of different colors, mostly greens, but yellows and browns in there to add some texture to my grass. And then I have to unwrap it, of course, because if I render it, it's still not the picture. If I press tab to go to edit mode, and it's all selected already, and it's just a plane, so I don't need to mark any seams. I just press U to unwrap. I unwrap that, and then go out to object mode and do a little render, and there, look, it's getting some texture on that grass. So whatever color is at the bottom of the grass, it pulls that color up with it. And so that is going to look a lot better. And it's still pretty scraggly, and I can see that picture, and it's really pixelated, but it doesn't matter because the grass is going to be thick enough that you won't see that. So if I press F12 and actually render this, I'm going to get the 100,000 pieces of grass, and it's going to be really thick, and it's going to be a little scraggly like field grass. It might be too thick for your taste, but that's all preference that you can change later. So if I let this render for a minute, you're going to see that it looks pretty good, pretty realistic. And that's the basics of adding grass. And so then you can change the settings from there if you want and kind of play around with it to see what you want it to look like and just do some test renders and get it how you want.